Hanayama, a man who never trains, yet stands among the ranks of fighters who devote their very existence to chasing after strength. He, in my opinion, with the exception of Yujiro himself, personifies strength in Baki the best, as he is the idea of purity given human shape, a man who can see past all superficial details, and a man even the ogre respects. He is Hanayama. So if you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing that bell. Anyway, on with the video. Hanayama is very different to a lot of the series' characters, as well it's a martial arts series with a lot of the story focusing around how the cast develop and refine their skills and techniques, how they grow stronger through innovation and training. Yet the one character who such a statement cannot be applied to is Hanayama, the character who never trains, who fights with nothing but his natural born ability. He is a man who doesn't use tricks or techniques, who fights with nothing but pure might. He never sneak attacks, he will always face you head on. Be you armed with weapons or empty hands, he does not discriminate. That is the kind of man Hanayama is. He will use the same attack again and again without changing it up, because he simply intends to take his full strength and unleash it on his opponent. Them knowing that it is coming, or how he will throw it, is irrelevant to a man like Hanayama. But why does Hanayama hold this belief in fighting and in strength? Well, to work that out, we need to go back to the legend of the Standing Man. It tells of a lone traveller who was offered shelter by a noble family in feudal Japan. On the same night, a group of assassins were sent to kill every member, and amongst the bloody coup, the traveller attempted to flee, carrying a large bell on his back. However, he didn't make it very far, leading to him being stabbed, cut, beaten and berated, till he died, still standing. Only after the fact is it discovered that under the bell was the young heir of the Hanayama clan, and so ever since, as a tribute to this courage, every heir to the clan has had the tattoo of the Standing Man etched into their backs, it coming to represent to the clan the idea that even in the dangerous world of the Yakuza, they must keep standing strong. The story alone is very informative of Hanayama's approach to a fight, but what is more telling is how after getting the tattoo for himself, he decided it was not finished, and added the last bit himself by single-handedly destroying a rival group, leading to his body becoming crisscrossed with scars, as he wished to honour the Standing Man, the one who earnestly kept fighting even after death, the accomplishments of a man who stood up and kept standing up for what he believed in. Now Hanayama in a lot of ways is the opposite of Baki, whereas Baki spent his entire life training to get strong enough to become worthy of his father's respect, Hanayama instead came out of the womb already strong enough. And like Baki, he didn't wish for strength because he already had it. He didn't wish for more because he already had enough to survive. He is a simple man in a lot of ways, and the best way that demonstrates this is the fact he has no dream for greater strength. He is content with what he already has, as that is enough. He doesn't need to wish to be stronger to become strong. He has to be strong because he was born that way. He is in general the end goal so many of the series' characters have always been fighting to achieve, but cannot due to their fixation on what comes next. Hanayama, you see, is satisfied. Not having a goal may lead some to having no direction in life, but for Hanayama, having no direction is what makes his life have meaning. He lives in the moment, he approaches every situation with earnestness. And well, since the whole point of the Baki series is Baki himself, coming to understand this fact, finding fulfillment in who he is as a person, and coming to not just have his whole world revolve around his father, but walk his own path in life, aka his Baki-do, it is quite telling of how genuinely important Hanayama is in the narrative, given he starts off the story having already accomplished what it takes Baki close to 1,000 chapters to. And his general approach to fighting, in that victory is irrelevant and the fight itself is what holds meaning, is something Baki doesn't fully realise until Son of Ogre. So yeah, it goes without saying Hanayama, even right from the start of the series, was a voice piece for Itagaki to voice some of the most important lessons of the series. Now the initial fight between Hanayama and Baki says a lot about the two respective fighters, who are both at the same time polar opposites but also kindred spirits. Hanayama was basically just Baki but better. Both were young kids from powerful family lines, both pursuing the way of their family, though one does so willingly and the other is forced to as a tool. Baki at the start of the flashback arc fails to defeat 100 men, only defeating a mere 37, whereas Hanayama defeated 50 armed men and was stated to be able to beat 100 men. Whereas Yori dealt Baki his first loss, Hanayama crushed him without issue. He is just Baki's better in all aspects, and this is very much intentional. How Hanayama differs though is in his actions. He doesn't just beat his opponents, he crushes them. Even when they are down, he shows no mercy. He is called the world's strongest man, he is called inhuman, called one who transcends martial arts, all things that we ascribe to one other man, to Yujiro. Hanayama acts as a stand-in for Yujiro, to demonstrate to Baki the kind of man he must defeat. Now Baki vs Hanayama happens without a starting bell. A big shock to Baki, as up until this point all his fights had a clear start, this being important as this fight wasn't a match. Nobody came to challenge, this was a brawl, anytime, anywhere. It was in that way a far purer fight, and one that very much resembles the legendary father-son fight at the climax of the series, a fight which in a lot of ways can be called the purest fight in the series. As I said at the start of the video, Yujiro and Hanayama are the most clear examples of the series' definition of strength, and although I'll leave the details of that till we talk about their fight in Baki-Do, I do want to bring up how in this fight Baki compares Hanayama to his father, saying they are from the same world. When Hanayama throws Baki out of a window, Baki comes to realise that to Hanayama a fight goes all the way. To Hanayama a fight is nothing more than throwing out all your strength until one of you goes down. It's not that Hanayama was trying to kill Baki, he just used his full power, and if that was enough to kill Baki, then so be it. It's why after downing Baki, he walked off. Because once the opponent falls to your strength, that's enough, the fight in Hanayama's eyes is over. And of course this is why he admits his loss after his own back touched the ground. A back, I remind you, that features the tattoo of the standing man, which represents his ideals. They both went down, but the one to stand back up was Baki. It was clear that only one of their strengths was great enough to keep the other down. This fight is a back and forth of gory proportions, but like all of Hanayama's fights, it is one where he doesn't dodge or block, he just attacks, as the fight is about swinging your fists, nothing more, nothing less. It's like his vice grip, there is no technique to it at all, he just grabs hold and squeezes, he just bulldozes through with pure raw power, as that is what fighting is, you exerting your strength onto another to see whose strength comes out on top. Skipping ahead a little to the next big moment for Hanayama comes before the first father-son fight, when Baki has been rejected by his mother, the person he did all of this for, to gain her recognition. And who is the one to come to his aid? None other than Hanayama. Hanayama tells him that as long as his mother is still alive, he can still achieve his goal. Not to beat Yujiro, but to earn his mother's love. Hanayama himself lost his own mother, but he doesn't dwell on what he cannot change. He focuses on what he can. He can't bring his mother back to life, and Baki can't beat Yujiro. So he tells Baki to instead focus on what he can do, and what he can do is earn his mother's affection. He admits he is jealous of Baki for having a mother, but that is all it is, a passing feeling of jealousy, because as he said, he knows he cannot change it, he doesn't fixate on the past, he lives in the moment. He approaches everything with the same mindset, how can I use the strength I have now to better myself in this moment? And for Hanayama, what makes him feel alive, what brings him joy and fulfillment is of course fighting. The baby born with the strength of a full-grown man, Hanayama is quite possibly the most ideal image of a man presented in the series, one who sticks to their ideals no matter what, who doesn't fight to achieve something but fights to stay true to what they believe in. It's why as shown in the Maximum Tournament, he never yields when it comes to his beliefs. In fact, the only reason he competes in the tournament to begin with is because he wishes to put his own beliefs in strength against those of the martial arts. This coming to its conclusion with his fight with Katsumi, the karate prodigy. But before that match, he first faces off with Inagi, who decides to pity Hanayama and look down upon his true brawling strength by offering safety equipment, which Hanayama of course crushes in his palms, as if to say this so-called safety equipment is inferior to his own strength, so would be of no use. In their fight, Inagi continues to nail Hanayama with his own skills, but in the end all it takes is a few normal ass telegraph swings from Hanayama to take Inagi out. As it doesn't matter whose punches are fancier, the one still standing at the end is the stronger. As he explains to Inagi's friend after the match, there is no meaning to his brawling, he has no reason or duty to justice like a martial artist. To him a fight holds no significance beyond trading blows. You fight when you want to fight, the other person accepts if he wants to, that's all fighting is. Ambush him, shoot him, come by yourself or with 100, you will always be welcome to fight Hanayama. His resolve as a brawler is what makes him a true and honest warrior. He stands opposed to martial artists, who have reasons behind their punches and train out of fear of losing. And so to illustrate this fact, we must discuss his match with the prodigy of karate, Katsumi. In his fight against Katsumi, Katsumi aims to teach him the truth of fighting, that martial strength is true strength. It's martial arts versus violence, almost like an early version of Yujiro versus Kaku. Katsumi takes his pride in karate into this match, but Hanayama takes nothing more than his ideals. It's like how he could have beaten Katsumi if he followed up on his fallen foe, but he didn't, because a man who punches their opponents once they're defeated on the ground, that isn't Hanayama. Even if others call it foolish, to Hanayama it is simply how he chooses to live. Even if Katsumi mocked it, he unleashed his strength the same way as always, without tricks, just a powerful punch with all his might. He makes Katsumi vomit as he was beaten black and blue. He tore down the pride and ego of a skilled martial artist that surrounded Katsumi, because this was a fight and stuff like that were not needed. Katsumi happily runs away when the tables turn on him, because what he seeks is nothing but victory, in stark contrast to Hanayama, who doesn't fight to win, he fights to fight. But as the fight continues, Hanayama took everything Katsumi dealt out, because that is what his ideals say he should do. The standing man didn't flee from those bandits, so why would he flee from the attacks of his opponent? And this gets through to Katsumi and makes him admit that he was wrong, that he was too fixated on looking at tomorrow, that he couldn't give his all to the now. The climax of the fight is the reveal of the Mach Punch, Katsumi's ultimate technique. A strike so fast Hanayama had no chance of blocking or evading, not that he would have even if he could, but still that punch was simply stronger than Hanayama's own, and so he was beaten into defeat. But just like the man tattooed on his back, he did not stand down in spite of certain defeat, and he kept standing till the very end, even using his back, the part of himself he held the most pride in, to challenge Katsumi's strongest blow. Victory and defeat mean nothing to a man like Hanayama. As long as he fought with all his might, then the results were irrelevant. As the series goes on and the truth of strength becomes more and more clear, we come to realise just how special of a character Hanayama is in the Baki verse. The best example of this being in how he interacts with Yujiro during Baki-Do. Yujiro, you see, shows him respect. Now it must be pretense that after the far-for-some fight, Yujiro and his outlook on life has changed, with the world shifting away from revolving around him to revolving around his son. Hence him being forced to wear sunglasses, an unheard of thing before. But even still, him showing respect to Hanayama says a bloody lot. Yujiro only respects the strong, and so by this measure, Hanayama is strong. I mean, as Tokugawa says, if the name Hanayama Karu comes up, even the ogre will move. And well, if Yujiro respects you, that says an awful lot. His most interesting fight in the series though comes a little later when he faces down the monster of the past, Miyamoto Musashi. As is made very clear in the Musashi arc, and well, to be frank, even back before Baki-Do,
Musashi Miyamoto の身体能力は近代アスリートのゴールドメダリストをはるかに凌駕すると言われている。そんな希代のマーシャルアーティストに
Musashi is incredibly important, a mythic figure that everyone has heard of and everybody respects. In the realm of fighters or warriors, he is a legend. Yet Hanayama, beyond having heard the name, has no clue who Musashi is. Which is pretty shocking when you remember just how much he is hyped up in his arc as this legend of history. But again, this makes sense because Hanayama has no need for external information, no need for motivation. He simply swings his fists at the opponent stood before him, nothing more. It's why his stance pays no heed to defense or counterattacks. He is about as pure a fighter as can possibly exist. His approach and his mindset to this fight are blindingly pure, physically shown by the white light that envelops him in this fight. Unlike Musashi, who is shrouded in darkness, because Musashi is one who fights for an ends, who fought for riches, who fought to survive, as back in the day to live one had to fight. But now in the modern age, things were different, and Hanayama, the youth of this new world, represents perfectly that in this age men instead live to fight. Musashi fought for an ends, but for Hanayama, fighting is the ends. When Kizaki got flustered at the idea of Hanayama fighting Musashi, listing out how legendary the samurai was, Hanayama replies simply that people train and do research because they are afraid and want to win at all costs. He is neither afraid of Musashi nor hungering for victory. He just wants to fight the strong opponent before him, which is what he does. To fight just because there is an opponent before me, that is the epitome of Hanayama's approach to combat. Whether it's a samurai or God itself, it matters not to Hanayama. He himself can be strong or weak in comparison, but again, it does not matter. And so in this fight, he showed no extra respect or reverence to Musashi, this being in striking difference to every other character's reaction to Musashi so far. Be it Baki losing his cool before even comprehending his true identity, or Shibakawa referring to him as a god of fighting. Well, almost every character, as the only other character besides Hanayama who saw Musashi as nothing special was Yujiro, the man who literally represents the idea of strength that Hanayama believes in, masterfully shown by how the figure on Hanayama's back, the man to inspire Hanayama's ideals, looks just like Yujiro. What's really interesting though is not Hanayama's reaction to Musashi, but Musashi's to him. As said, Musashi saw a blinding light behind Hanayama, something that amazed him as it was different to every other fighter he had seen, be it food, flowers or gold. He saw an image behind each fighter, but not Hanayama, because he is purity personified, pure enough to halt the Sword Saint in his tracks. Hanayama the unarmed youth struck Musashi the armed legend of history without any care for defense, and then after launching Musashi 10 meters, he calmly walks over and before doing anything, asks if they are to continue. This obviously baffles Musashi, the man who fought to survive, but to Hanayama such a question only made sense. If the fight was already over, then that was that. But if his opponent still had the will to keep fighting, then he would honour their resolve. He gives his name when asked, he gives back the sword stuck in his flesh. He continues to act in a way Musashi cannot understand. In the greater writing of the Musashi arc, this is to demonstrate how alienated Musashi is from the current times, and the new definition of strength and fighting of this modern age. But for Hanayama specifically, it shows that he is first and foremost earnest. His approach to fighting, to life itself, is earnest. Musashi even compares his eyes to the Buddha, very telling when as shown earlier in the arc, Musashi's own veil of enlightenment was shattered by Yujiro. With this not being the first time Hanayama is compared to a god, with a similar event happening in his fight with Spec, and well, considering Yujiro's whole thing is being the god of the Baki world and being compared to divine beings, this is yet another example of how close Hanayama is to the idea of pure strength and hence Yujiro. And even if he did lose the fight, Hanayama did accomplish something. He proved Musashi wrong, proved that there was one thing in this world he could not cut. Not that Hanayama himself could care about that. All he cared about was that he used all his strength and fought him. And that is what the standing man did. He used all his strength to hold true to his ideals, even in the face of an armed opponent he could not beat. Hanayama truly embodies the spirit of the man etched on his back, and because of it stands as the pinnacle of true and honest strength in the Baki series. And if you want to support this channel even further, then perhaps pledge to my Patreon, or consider becoming a channel member, so you can get your name at the end of the video like Hikari Desu, Rinjak9696, Mr. Sputum, and Matthias Rowett. So with all that said and done, I have been SephTheSin, the deadly sin of geek, and I am signing out. Stay safe, everyone.